Good afternoon, everyone. Really nice to have so many of you here. We had a lot of interest in the event, so we're really excited to have you with us. There's lots of people still coming in, and we'll just let them carry on and do that. But we do have a tight program for you today, and we're hoping to get through it all in time. Um, Before we start, just please note that French language interpretation is available for those of you who would like it. You can click the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you'd like to hear the French language simultaneous interpretation, you can do that. We were planning to have ASL interpretation here as well. I'm actually not sure if they've managed to join us at this point, so I'm being told that we don't have them here just yet. So if they do become available, we will pop that in the chat for folks and let you know that that's available, and we can let you know how to access that. I think we're having some tech difficulties there. Your tech support, speaking of that, today is Davina. You can chat with her. She's noted as tech support Davina. We also have tech dash WR, who's Monica. So they're happy to help you. Please feel free to contact them if you need anything. They'll support you with any sound issues or anything like that. My name's Gayleen. I'm the Director of Programs here at White Ribbon. I'll be your MC today. We're really excited to have you all here. Just some quick housekeeping before we formally open the event. You can submit your questions. We're going to close the chat in a little bit. You can submit your questions using the Q&A function. We'll try to get to them as we can. We were hoping to get to them throughout the event, but it's going to depend a little bit on time. But we'll follow up after the event if there's any key questions that folks have kind of that might be useful for everybody to have the answer to. We'll follow up with you via email to all the registrants here. Again, any tech difficulties, you've got Tech WR or Tech Support Davina through the chat. You can enable the closed captioning if you'd like. On your end, that option's available to you for accessibility purposes as well. Lots of people asking if the event is being recorded. It is being recorded. We'll send the recording out to all of the attendees after the event, and depending on accessibility for that, we may post it to our YouTube channel as well. But those of you who are here, we'll send the event out to you after the event, along with any questions. So with all of that, I think we're ready to get rolling with our formal opening. So before I introduce Kat Krieger to open our event, we would like to acknowledge as White Ribbon the beautiful land on which we reside in what is now called Ontario on Treaty 13 territory. Since time immemorial, this has been the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We recognize this land is now home to many diverse Indigenous people from across Turtle Island and the world, as well as to many of us who are uninvited settlers on this land. To open our event, we're pleased to have Kat Krieger with us. Kat is an Indigenous elder, traditional teacher, and knowledge keeper. He's from the Cayuga Nation Turtle Clan, as well as having German and English ancestry. Kat was taught traditional ceremonies, teachings, circles, counseling, healing, and plant medicines, Indigenous philosophies, and pedagogies by an Anishinaabe elder, and he uses these gifts to help all people. We're really grateful to have Kat with us today. He's opened a number of our events, so we'll turn it over to you, Kat, to open the event for us. Kat, thanks so much for that opening and for grounding us in the teachings of the land that you're on. We really appreciate it. And I remember you saying the other day that we don't learn when we're speaking, and it's something that I take to my heart as well, and think it's something that I need to sometimes remember. So really appreciate you opening us today, as you often do, and we'll see you to close the event at the end as well. Miigwech. I'd now like to move on. We'll introduce Humberto Carollo to provide some brief opening remarks before we move to our two keynote speakers for the event. Humberto is a globally recognized expert in gender-based violence prevention and the Chief Executive Officer of White Ribbon, our fearless leader. He specializes in engaging men and boys as allies in advancing gender equality, healthy masculinities, and preventing gender-based violence, and has provided expert guidance as well as to our own, to organizations, governments, and UN agencies worldwide. Umberto is a former co-chair and current board member of the Global Men Engage Alliance. He's a founding member of the North American Men Engage Network and serves on multiple advisory bodies, including the Department of National Defence's Sexual Misconduct Support and Resource Center and Ontario's Domestic Violence Death Review Committee. I'll pass it over to you, Umberto.
Thank you so much, Gayleen and Miigwech, Kat, for your wisdom and your welcoming remarks. Um, we are so glad to be. I think someone's microphone perhaps is unmuted, and I'm hearing some sound. But uh, just 1 second, please. Okay, I think that may have been resolved. Maybe not. So sorry. I'm having technical difficulties here. I'm hearing some other language being translated. So let me just give 1 second. Okay, I think that's resolved now. So as I was saying, Miigwech, Kat, for your welcoming remarks and your wisdom and for your long-standing connection with White Ribbon. We are committed to contribute to reconciliation efforts with Indigenous people across Turtle Island and around the world. And so we stand in solidarity with you and all Indigenous communities everywhere as we work to end all forms of gender-based violence and discrimination. So welcome everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I see that you've come from across Canada and around the world as well. It's so good to be together with all of you and be part of this community of allies and change makers. So let's get to what we are going to be talking about today. It's no secret that the radicalization of men and boys online is growing at an alarming rate. Leading to increased real-world violence. But opportunities like this event serve as pockets of hope. There are so many of you here today and so many that registered to participate in the event, and all in an effort to learn about and discuss groundbreaking research in this field. We can work together to find an effective solution in preventing and addressing the radicalization of young men and boys into the Incel community and other ideologies within the Manosphere. We can strategize to end gender-based violence, hate, and discrimination, both online and offline, once and for all. We need to do that. White Ribbon recently released Boys Are at Risk, a research report in collaboration with Angus Reid on the impact of misogyny and online radicalization on youth from the perspectives of parents, educators, and Canadians more broadly. By providing evidence-based data on these challenges, we can equip educators, parents, and communities, and all of us with effective strategies and tools to counter the harmful messages and to create spaces where boys and young men can grow up with respect, empathy, and equity. What we are seeing is concerning. The research shows that 95% of educators say boys and young men are exposed to sexist and misogynistic ideologies online. They are being radicalized in spaces where algorithms promote sensational and polarizing content, exposing them to misogynistic, racist, homophobic, transphobic, and hateful ideologies. Apart from educators, parents also showed their concern. 71% of parents of boys worry about their sons being exposed to hateful content online, and 59% say they are aware of the online harmful content aimed at boys and young men. Online groups are deliberately targeting vulnerable youth, some as young as 8, through mainstream social media platforms. In an ever-growing divisive world, boys' vulnerabilities such as loneliness, anxiety, and the need for belonging and community are being exploited by the manosphere by promoting anger towards women, feminism, and other marginalized groups. And these consequences don't just exist online. 4 in 5 educators have witnessed misogynistic behaviors in classrooms, including harmful gender stereotypes, disrespect towards women, and attitudes of aggression or dominance towards women and girls. It translates to real world hate, discrimination, and violence. Hate, misogyny, and incel ideologies are becoming normalized. It's up to all of us here today to change that trajectory. We also collaborated with the Canadian Institute for Far Right Studies on a project to explore rural educators' experiences and unhealthy expressions of masculinity, gender inequities, and gender based discrimination in classrooms. The findings in that research are equally alarming. 76% of educators reported witnessing students using harmful, hateful slurs against the 2S LGBTQIA plus community. 59% of educators described students making racist jokes or comments directed at peers or teachers, with one incident escalating into physical violence. Oftentimes, rural educators are overlooked and in dire need of resources and tools to support them. It is vital that we work in a highly unique, specialized, and culturally informed way to better respond to different needs. You can stay up to date on the release of this research in the next few weeks by following our social media handle at White Ribbon Canada on Instagram and TikTok. Many parents and educators feel they lack resources and support in dealing with the rise of the manosphere. White Ribbon has responded to this through education as a key form of prevention. We help boys and young men learn digital literacy, consent, and build vital critical thinking skills needed to question harmful online rhetoric and resilience against manipulation, exploitation, and hateful ideologies. White Ribbon has created programming, tools, resources, and training for parents and educators to help counter harmful gender narratives and respond to growing hate and misogyny. We have multiple experts who will be speaking with us today to discuss this more in depth. And we're here to provide tools, resources, and insights by strengthening our collective education, awareness, and advocacy. We can disrupt hate and create safer, more inclusive communities. Our early intervention and prevention programs for boys and young men, regardless of where they are in their journey, have proven to be extremely effective in creating life-changing outcomes. The innovative research and tools you will learn about today will continue to provide positive evidence-based outcomes in the work we undertake. Now, onto something personal. As someone who grew up with watching the impact of this kind of violence in my own home and community, although in a different era, and now as a father of three young men, I'm deeply committed to raise the next generation of young people who learn, live, and exemplify the values of equality, respect, empathy, vulnerability, and nonviolence. It's a personal and collective commitment for me, for my colleagues at White Ribbon, for all men and boys, for all of us to call for change at the individual and systemic level in our homes, in our communities, and in our institutions, because the status quo is no good for any of us. I want to give a special thank you to the governments of Canada, Ontario, and Manitoba, to foundation and corporate partners, and to the community organizations we work with in Canada and around the world for believing in our organization and supporting our work. It's so great to see so many of you from around the globe here today. But more support and investment in this change is needed. And now is not the time to dial back funding. We must scale up our efforts because hate and misogyny knows no boundaries. So let's work together to create change because we know change is possible and it's desperately needed. To close us off, I want to share this quote with you by celebrated feminist, novelist, and retired educator Maxine Hong Kingston, who said, "I have to imagine a healthy world because how are we going to build it if we don't imagine it?" So as we embark on this event today, let us all have the courage to imagine a better, safe, more equitable world and turn it into a material reality. Because if we can't imagine it, how will we build it? So thank you all again for your commitment and your allyship. I will now pass it on back to Galen.
Thanks so much, Umberto. Thanks for the enlightening context and highlighting some of our research that our team has done in collaboration with others and some of the great work we've been doing. And of course, for ending with Maxine's wise words. So thank you so much for joining us and doing that for us. We're going to move on now to one of our two keynote speakers. We have two fantastic folks here with us today who do research in this field, and one of whom is a practitioner. The first is Dr. Luke Cousineau. Dr. Cousineau is based at Dalhousie School of Health and Human Performance. His research is divided between critiques of masculinity, men's rights, leisure online, and the study of employee servant surveillance software. Luke's research centers gender and power in work and leisure, with a particular focus on how masculinities are understood and interact with lives online. He's also the co-director of research for the Canadian Institute for Far Right Studies, which partnered closely with White Ribbon around the Preventing Incel Radicalization project we're featuring today. Umberto mentioned this in his remarks. The rural study work that we did was done with the Canadian Institute for Far Right Studies. So welcome, Luke. I'll pass it over to you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much. You should be, if all is going well, seeing my slideshow.
We do.
Perfect. Um, so thanks everybody for being here. Joining this platform to have these really important discussions. A couple of weeks ago, I got to participate in a debate of sorts at the University of British Columbia, Okanagan, about whether there was a crisis in masculinity, whether there is a crisis in masculinity. So essentially about whether the development of men as about one half of a very social species have reached a point of kind of calamity. This might surprise you, but I was arguing that I don't believe that there's a crisis in masculinity. To argue that there is a masculinity crisis, we must first accept two things. That masculinity is a stand-in that means men, and it doesn't. And you can read Jack Halberstam's work to get a feel for that. And two, that this singular term can represent all men, and it can't. 30 years ago, sociologist R.W. Connell explained that masculinity as a single, unified, and identifiable thing is impossible. Because masculinity has and always will be a changing, moving thing. It's learned, performed, and maintained through culture and power, and depends on where, when, and who you are. What it means to be a man where you are sitting today is different from what it might mean for others in this meeting, or around the corner, and is certainly different from what it meant in any of those places in 1995. This means, of course, that not only can an individual carry a broad understanding of what it means to be a man, but that those understandings all exist at the same time. This is important because to claim that masculinity is in crisis implies that there is only one right way to be a man, and that this right way is somehow in danger. It erases differences of race, sexuality, social status, and geography, among other things. I argue that this so-called crisis is occurring in the face of an actual opening up of possibility, where men can do and be differently in ways that the pressures of capitalism, patriarchal structures, and stigma have largely prevented until now. Are some men in crisis, though? Absolutely. So what masculinity, or rather masculinities, are doing today is exactly what we should expect, changing with time and the evolution of our social species. What this creates, I think, is a kind of forest of masculinities, where each orientation to what masculinity means has a trunk with a central core and leaves that sprout off, sort of like the individuals that embody that kind of masculinity. It's here that we can start talking about the manosphere. The branches and the leaves of the manosphere tree are the different groups within the manosphere. So you have incels, you have men going their own way, you have men's rights groups, you have the red pill, and you have others. The leaves are the individuals that occupy those groups. What unifies the manosphere together, that central core that links these diverse groups, is anti-feminism. But what fuels the tree of the manosphere, so what allows the individuals to grow in these spaces, are a variety of issues, including, oh, that shouldn't have changed, including including patriarchy, traditional gender roles, social media platforms, fear, loneliness, extreme views and ideologies, online communities, as well as other things. This is where the turn to misogyny, and particularly violent misogyny, becomes a gendered issue. Not because the violence of misogyny isn't expressed on and towards women. It is, and that's certainly not in question. But I want to consider that its own gendered issue for the moment. But because the pernicious creep of the idea that there is an acceptable amount of misogynistic violence, there isn't, that escapes from online communities, and these communities are designed to and do indoctrinate boys. Boys tell us that they are feeling an intense amount of external pressure to be certain ways, even as they feel that those ways of being aren't who they are, don't feel good, and don't allow them to be whole people. And this is a great social shame, or at least it should be. There are among the complex factors along and especially with social media platforms incentivized to push users towards extreme content, there are complex factors that lead some to join the manosphere. Um, a problem, grievance, or just being unsure leads some people to support seeking. Feeling included in community leads to the internalization of messaging from inside that community. Over time, that content tends to become more extreme as the dopamine of those connections drops and novelty about those things wane. Those who move forward into extremism do so for a variety of reasons. I've listed some there, but there are, of course, many others. While not exhaustive, I've provided a little list here. We know that the most vulnerable to recruitment into extremism have some commonalities. And while I've included some of them here, I think Dr. Hassan would do a much better job in articulating these elements than I will, I think. One of the most significant places that we see the outflow of misogyny from online space into the real world, and now a significant part of my own research, is into schools and other educational settings. As the quote that served as the subtitle for this talk, which I'll note is taken directly from teachers' experience in Halifax and is among the tamest examples that I had to choose from when I was picking it, it is having an impact. Here, I've included a variety of red flags that we've identified over time, actions by students that should give us calls for concern. Uh, and a small list of actions, some of course quite a bit easier than others to undertake, that we can do to respond in real time and sometimes in longer terms. I don't think 8 minutes is enough time to really speak about any even one of these in detail, but action here boils down to two broad approaches. And those are to educate and activate. So, educate not just youth, but also teachers and parents and others in digital literacy, among other things, and then activate that knowledge. And also to create proactive policies rather than reactive policies. I'll close with an illustration of where we can find hope, though, because I think that that's really, really important. My colleague, Dr. Chris Taylor in New Zealand, has done excellent work working directly with boys and is among the many people who help to show us that boys want to talk about masculinity, learning about what it means to be a man, and what works and what doesn't in their world. Uh, in the absence of that opportunity to talk about those things in a place where they feel safe, they seek it wherever they can. And sometimes they find it in these communities that radicalize them. We can use this as a real window into how we might take concrete and impactful action. The closing lesson here should perhaps be that this is often something that is done to boys as well as by boys. An excellent research from Baker, Gang, and colleagues in Ireland, as well as a new report from Common Sense Media, the work that White Ribbon is doing, lay this out very, very plainly. I don't say this to explain away what's happening. In fact, I find the boys will be boys argument like a really abhorrent way of letting men and boys escape the consequences of actions that are no longer socially acceptable. But rather, it can help us, I think, reframe at least part of how we think about solutions. This is a really complex social issue, and it has really complex social solutions. And the people here today, I think, can be part of those complex and important social solutions. Thank you.
Wow, thanks so much, Dr. Cousineau. That was really great. I'm really reflecting on you saying that boys really want spaces to talk about masculinity and what it means to be a man, and that in the absence of healthy spaces in which to do that, they find it where they can. So I think that's a really great connection with the work that we're doing, and yeah, really fantastic insight for sure. Thank you so much. I'll move on now to our next keynote speaker. Luke referenced Dr. Haida Hassan in his talk, so I'd like to introduce Dr. Hassan. She is a clinical psychologist and professor of clinical psychology at UQAM in Montreal. She directs the Canadian Practitioner Network for the Prevention of Radicalization and Extremist Violence, and she is the UNESCO co-chair in the Prevention of Radicalization and Extremist Violence. Dr. Hassan serves on the RCMP Management Advisory Board and recently chaired the Independent Advisory Committee for the Global Internet Forum for Countering Terrorism. Her research and work and clinical work focuses on social suffering, hate and racism, family violence, and the mental health and belonging of children, youth, and refugees from diverse communities. Welcome, Dr. Hassan. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cousineau. It was just a great start of the conversation. Thank you, everyone. Amazing 375 people who are attending. This is just great. We have very little time, but I will try my best to talk about such a complex phenomenon. And I want to try to do it by bringing us both from the macro to the micro, because I believe there are two things that are important to keep in mind. The first one, and you've heard that before by so many people, the global is local, and you've heard maybe even people saying glocal. You know, we live in such a hyper-connected world where we are very sensitive to what is happening here and abroad as well. But also the fact that I deeply believe that the intimate is political, in the sense that we are traversed as individuals, even as very young children, with the politics that are happening around us, which is funny for a clinical psychologist to say that, but I do profoundly believe that. So what I want to say is that many of our youth, the youth that we work with, and of course, these are youth who are affected by many vulnerabilities and by many structural and social injustices. They are both surviving violence and structural injustices and sometimes adhering to that form of violence. Uh, we are in an intersecting space that I think is a little bit unprecedented in the history, while we've had a similar wave happening in the history prior. But that space is really the intersection of three important issues. The first one is a step back toward identity politics all around us. So politics that basically divide society by groups characterized by simplified identity markers that are identified as being opposed and sometimes impossible to conciliate or connect with groups that have other identity markers. One. Two, intersecting with that is an increase in social strain and social and economic grievances. Youth understand today that life, and just having the basic things in life, like a decent salary, decent housing, dreaming of owning a safe space to live in, seems more difficult to them than it used to be for the generation before. Both of these social strain and identity politics are connecting in unprecedented ways with the power of internet and the online environment. And the online environment, you know, it has something so unique that it is both a converger, a distributor, but also a catalyst. So it doesn't just converge where, you know, people are connecting from all around the world in one virtual space that was inexistent 10 or, you know, 20 years ago, and also diffusing to millions of people, which was also impossible in the real social space. But just because of the way our brains are wired, it is a catalyst. The online environment affects our attitudes, our behaviors, and our emotions in ways very similar to whether we were sitting in front of a real person next to us. And this is dangerous. So imagine ourselves and imagine our youth in this space. Many youth that we work with as practitioners are facing a host of grievances and not finding spaces where dialogue is open, where there is a possibility to talk about those difficult issues that they are facing in a space where there are principles that can protect them into having a positive dialogue. And I'm talking about spaces where both adults and youth work on their positionality, spaces that offer dignity, that offer listening, that offer respect, that offer reciprocity and reflexivity. So what we're seeing is a hyper-individualization and retreat into one's personal suffering from the real social space because of the closeness, no, not closeness, the closing, sorry, English is not my first language, the closing of those dialogue spaces. We're seeing that retreat into one's kind of closed environment and difficulty in connecting with others. So while we're talking about youth and, you know, extremist ideologies that are harmful for young men themselves and for women as well, or all different genders, I want also to talk about the polarization of the adults around these youth. So we see polarization not only in youth, but also among teacher environments, in professional environments. And the hard work that we need to do is to provide those adults environments where they can work on their own reflexivity and on their own role and ability to support youth and to listen with that for them, for what they have to share, for the distress that Dr. Cousino has expressed very well, where there's an openness, you know, breaking that hyper individuality and that closeness and retreat to the online space, to bring it back to the offline and also safer online spaces for discussion. This cannot be done if we do not recognize the importance of working on one's emotionality. So in the kind of work that we do, we always put at the forefront one's well-being, one's emotionality, and one's experiences as adults to be able to support the youth that we are working with. So with that, because I know there are a lot of amazing things to be shared, please take this as a very general introduction to a highly complex space. But if there is one key message to take out of it, is the importance of reopening spaces where suffering, politics, structural injustices can be discussed, can be shared, and where retreating into a hyper individuality of grievances and social strain is brought back as a collective experience, not as an individual experience. It's not an easy work, but it is possible. We can do it. And when we open those spaces, truly profoundly transformative things can happen, both for the youth and for the adults that are working with them.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. I think you've brought forward so many great points there. Something really stood out to me was your mention of adults also having to work on their own emotionality and their ability to hold space and have these conversations, in an effective way when youth are so clearly struggling and closing off from dialogue and certainly face-to-face dialogue. And so there's a lot of educators in the room today, a lot of child and youth workers, mental health workers, so really relevant for sure to all of them. And obviously your key message of really finding spaces to have those dialogues where, youth and adults can talk about their suffering and systemic injustice and things of that nature. So really amazing work. Thank you so much for joining us and your connections with what Dr. Cousineau had to say and how Umberto opened the conversation. Really wonderful for us. So thank you. Thank you both. We'll look forward to continuing to engage on this topic for sure. I'm going to turn it over now to the next section of our event here. This is the resource section. We did promise you that we would talk about some insights, but we also promised you some resources. So I'm going to turn it over now to my wonderful colleague, Joanna Fayad. She's White Ribbon's Bilingual Program Manager. She's the lead on our project aimed at preventing incel radicalization through professionalizing the practice in Ontario. Joanna has recently taken this project over from our colleague Marcel, who shepherded it through its beginning stages. This next section of our event is going to focus specifically on this project and on the resources and e-course available to eligible professional practitioners in Ontario from the associations that have partnered with us over the course of the project to date. Many of you in the room are from those associations. I'll pass it over to you, Joanna.
You, Gayleen, and I just gotta say that it's very hard to go after Dr. Luke and Dr. Ghaida. And it has been a delight to listen to them talk about these topics and their insights. So yes, thank you and welcome everyone. The program that I'm gonna introduce today is titled Professionalizing the Practice, an Incel Radicalization Prevention Program. So here's what we're gonna cover today. So of course we have our own acknowledgement for the program, our introduction of the program, and then I'm gonna talk a bit about the e-course, which is the main resource that we're launching today as part of this event. And of course, our next steps. And finally, I'm gonna be asking our partners to introduce themselves. And this way they will have a couple of minutes to talk about themselves. And I know a lot of the participants with us today are members of the partner organizations with us. So first, let me acknowledge that this program is funded by Public Safety Canada. We extend our sincere thanks to our funding partners for their continued commitment to advancing gender equality and preventing all forms of gender-based violence. So before I introduce the program, I would like to define what is meant by incel. So when we say incels or involuntary celibates, they are predominantly young men struggling with dating, sex, and romance. The community has become associated with aggrieved entitlement towards women, misogynistic and anti-feminist ideologies, and offline acts of violence targeting women. So this program is part of a 5-year bilingual initiative running from 2023 to 2028. It takes a collaborative, multi-sectoral approach, engaging advisory committee partners to professionalize practice and responding to incel radicalization. Our aim is to build practitioner capacity, develop evidence-based training, and foster knowledge sharing across sectors that interact with at-risk young men. So to talk about core outcomes, we aim at building practitioner capacity, developing evidence-based, obviously, and also fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing across sectors. Um, I am pleased to share the progress that we've made on the core deliverables of this program. First, we completed a comprehensive literature review of evidence-based resources and practices. This review has informed all aspects of our program development. Second, we developed 3 research reports focusing on critical areas: online misogyny, radicalization in rural communities, and incel extremism. These reports have provided valuable insights into emerging trends and the prevention needs of at-risk populations. Third, we are launching as of this week the bilingual social marketing campaign and communication strategy, specifically targeting community-based practitioners. This initiative has ensured the program's reach and accessibility. Finally, we have created a bilingual online training e-course, course, that includes 3 modules that we're going to talk about in a minute, tailored to each sector, along with practical tools for practitioners. These resources are fully developed and ready for implementation. So together, these deliverables form the foundation of our program, equipping professionals with the knowledge, strategies, and tools needed to respond effectively to incel radicalization. I would like to take a moment here to acknowledge our valued partners who have contributed their expertise and support to this initiative. Their collaboration has been essential to the development and delivery of this program. Later in this presentation, you will have the opportunity to hear from them directly and for them to introduce themselves. So you can learn more about the organizations and the individuals driving this important work. I also like to acknowledge the amazing work that the evaluation team is continuously contributing, and especially in acknowledgement to Dr. Wendy Gregg, Dr. Michelle Shirley, and Ms. Jennifer Thompson and their team at Queen's University. So just a quick highlight here to say that this has been a tedious work for 2 years that I humbly took over in the last couple of months. And like Gayleen said, my colleague Marcel did an amazing job in starting and like almost finishing the process. So I did like the first last steps. So I just want to say that we adapted the instrumentation, so the e-course is based on a pilot feedback, based on the pilot and its feedback, and now we're moving on to the dissemination of the e-course, which will lead to more data collection and an opportunity for us to further improve the e-course. So for the e-course, the main launch for today, this e-course offers a comprehensive multi-level approach to understanding and preventing incel radicalization. It promotes gender equality, healthy relationships, and positive social interactions. So the training actually encourages professionals to recognize that boys and young men need support from different teams and different practitioners working in the field, which is why this specific e-course targets different aspects of and different fields and opportunities for connection and community. And of course, we aim to address systematic factors driving misogynistic ideologies. And so we can reduce stigma and isolation, foster collaboration across sectors, and prevent incel-based radicalization and violence. Okay, sorry for this. So the e-course is comprised of 3 modules. The first module focuses on the power dynamics and traditional gender roles, and it looks at the link between gender-based violence and misogyny, and it looks at this issue from a gender lens and a general lens. The second module focuses more on the incel movement and the incel subculture, and focuses also on risk and protective factors. The last module targets mental health workers, social workers, and educators, and provides tools and resources for multi-sectoral collaboration and for like support in any encounter with someone who is an incel, and also provides exit strategies in case anyone requires this type of support. Um, okay. And so lastly, I forgot to say that we included in the e-course tip sheets tailored to three specific sectors: education, mental health, and child and youth care. Okay, so for next steps, you will see in the chat our tech support, amazing tech support team, or may have sent you the link for the registration, or they will do so in a minute. And if you are eligible, you should apply for the e-course. And the eligibility requirements are, as you can see, you are a member of one of the 7 partner organizations. You are interested in this topic and interested in learning about radicalization and prevention of incel subculture, and you live and work in Ontario. However, if you are not eligible, but you are still interested in this topic, please submit your registration. We are working on expanding the scope of access, and hopefully we will be able to keep your email address and your registration in our records, and reach out once we are able to expand the scope. So fingers crossed, and this, even if you are not eligible, the registration will help us push for more access for more people to join us. And so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. This way you will be able to see the partners. I'm sorry, my mouse is giving me problems. Okay, so I would like to introduce our partners, and I would like to start with Sherry Ann, who is the Executive Officer for the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation. Sherry Ann, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And hi, everyone. And this is amazing to be here with over 375 people participating. So on behalf of OSSTF, FASO, I just want to say how proud we are to work alongside White Ribbon as a partner in this very important effort. Our education union is made up of about 60,000 members, and we work from kindergarten to university. And as education workers, we see every day how young people, especially young men and boys, are searching for ways to make sense of their feelings and the world around us. They're searching for connections, for belonging and guidance in spaces that may pull them in troubling directions. So that is why this work matters so deeply. With the rise in the online radicalization, I think one of the most important things we can do, excuse me, is to create real opportunities to connect with them, to give them positive spaces to talk, to listen, and to learn healthier ways to express who they are and how they feel. Those small moments of connections in classrooms and in hallways, or a team or with a team can truly change the path of someone's life. So this partnership with White Ribbon means so much to us because it's rooted in prevention, compassion, and education. And these are the best tools we have to raise boys who grow into men grounded in empathy, respect, and equality. So as an educator, we have the unique opportunity every day to model these values, to challenge harmful narratives. I really looking forward to hearing what the others have to say ahead. But I want to thank you as to be part of the team at White Ribbon for your leadership and continuing to remind us that, we can change cultures, but it begins with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Sherry Ann, and I agree. And thank you for the amazing partnership. I've heard so much of your amazing work, and we hope to continue working on this project and others to, push for a better world. So now I'm gonna give the mic to Belinda, who is representing the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association. Sorry.
Thank you, Joanna. Good afternoon, everyone. The Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association represents approximately 45,000 teachers working in publicly funded Catholic schools across Ontario, teaching in classrooms from kindergarten to grade 12. OECTA's partnership with White Ribbon has been and continues to be a really important one. As Dr. Sands said, raising awareness and building competence around challenging and complex social issues is really critical for teachers. Timely access to high quality resources, such as those that are provided by White Ribbon, help teachers recognize early warning signs of harmful ideologies and dangerous narratives that can impact student well-being and school safety. The e-course in particular is very valuable because it will help our teachers better understand extremist content, how it spreads online, and how teachers can support students who may be exposed to or influenced by those harmful narratives. This resource will support appropriate teacher intervention and help guide students towards healthier and more positive perspectives in communities. And that's certainly what we want to be a part of as teachers. We're really grateful for the work of White Ribbon and the positive impact that our partnership has had and will continue to have. So thank you, White Ribbon.
Thank you, Belinda. And we are moving to Ajere Organe. I hope I said it correctly. And she is representing Ontario Association of Social Workers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Joanna. It's a pleasure to join everyone after such thoughtful presentation and discussion. And so I am Ajere Organe. I'm the CEO at the Ontario Association of Social Workers, where we have over 10,000 members who work across many settings and sectors, from private practice to schools, hospitals, doctor offices, and in the justice system and beyond. As a registered social worker myself, I have had the privilege of working in multiple sectors, specifically around gender-based violence, intimate partner violence work. I'd like to share that social workers are often individuals who are wanting to be proactive. I heard one of our keynote talk about being proactive because we address some of society's most difficult challenges, whether it's child neglect, violence, mental illness, substance misuse, racism, marginalization, poverty, you can list it all. But we also focus on prevention work, in being proactive and stopping problems before they actually take hold. So preventing gender-based violence is no simple task. I know that. I also know specifically that boys and young men are often exposed to conflicting and harmful messages about masculinity. As a mother myself, I have a daughter and a son, and I understand how critical it is for young people to navigate these messages in a very thoughtful way. It requires all of us to engage respectfully, to intervene carefully, and to provide the guidance and the support that they need. So as a social worker, a registered social worker, a mother, a CEO, and all the hats that I wear, I'm very happy about our partnership with White Ribbon and to see the development of the program beyond the screen, understanding and preventing incel radicalization for young men and boys. Social workers are proud to play a role in these efforts alongside White Ribbon, and we will be recommending this program to all of our members. So thank you for including OASW in this important work and for truly inspiring this wonderful gathering across Canada. I saw a lot of people from outside the country as well, so thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like now to introduce Catherine Dos Santos, who is representing Ontario Association of Mental Health Professionals.
Thank you very much, Joanna. And like everybody has said, this has been a wonderful presentation and we're learning so much. And I'm very excited for the rollout of the course. As Joanna said, I'm the president of the OAMHP, the Ontario Association for Mental Health Professionals. We are Ontario's largest and most diverse association of mental health professionals. representing practitioners working in hospitals, private practice, schools, community health centers, and public organizations across the province. Our mission is to strengthen Ontario's mental health workforce through advocacy, professional development, and collaboration, ensuring that those who care for others are supported to do their best work. And we're so honored to be partnering with White Ribbon on the Incel Radicalization Prevention Program and the development of Beyond the Screen, Understanding and Preventing Incel Radicalization of Male Youth. This collaboration for us allows us to bring the voices and experiences of mental health professionals into a very important national conversation, and one that is focused on prevention, healthy masculinities, and reducing gender-based violence. For OAMHP, this work reflects what we value most, connecting professionals. I am myself a registered psychotherapist, sharing knowledge and building collective capacity to support safer, more compassionate communities across Canada. So thank you for everyone for joining. This has been a wonderful group, and look forward to meeting you in future meetings.
Thank you so much. And I know you are all doing an amazing work outside of this e-course and with White Ribbon. So really, I really appreciate your work, the work that you have been doing in Ontario and in Canada. And now I'm moving on to Eileen, who is representing John Howard Society of Ontario.
Thanks, Joanna. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today and to see this all kind of come together. It's been great for us to participate in it. So I work at John Howard Society of Ontario. We have local offices across the province, 19 of them in about 50 different sites. And we work with folks involved in the criminal justice system, but also supporting those who are impacted by the criminal justice system, adults, youth, kind of a gamut of different programming, housing, employment, mental health, counseling, different types of support. But we also do gender-based violence programming, and all of our offices are deeply invested in prevention and intervention and reintegration. So sort of all the stages that we see crossovers with this work. And I'm really just so grateful to White Ribbon for creating something like this, because I know our staff who are on the front lines working with clients every day, who may be tangentially touching this or directly touching it in some way. They need these resources, right? They need this type of education, especially more and more. We're seeing more and more of this at the sort of community level, and really being able to have this baseline knowledge so that they're prepared when they're having those conversations, because of course there's always the justice component to it. But it's all about this holistic wraparound support, right? And addressing things as best we can. And others have said it before too, around if we're really looking to prevent, looking at those intersections. So very happy to be here and very grateful to be working with White Ribbon on this.
Thank you so much. Our final speaker is Marie-Pascale Lafrenière, and she is representing Action Ontarienne contre la violence faite aux femmes.
Bonsoir. Merci, Joanna. My name is Marie-Pascale Lafrenière. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Operations at Action Ontarienne contre la violence faite aux femmes. Action Ontarienne is a feminist francophone organization in Ontario. We focus on public education, advocacy, legal services, and professional development. We have 16 member organizations who offer services to survivors of intimate partner violence and sexual violence. So we have been partners on this project since the spring of 2024, and it's been a very rewarding experience so far. We decided to engage in the prevention of incel radicalization with White Ribbon because we are really committed to ending violence towards women, girls, and gender diverse folks. We believe that tackling the radicalization of boys and men will help us in that goal, as they are statistically the ones who cause harm. We also believe that Embracing positive masculinity will help boys and men to have more meaningful relationships and to live more satisfying and fulfilling lives. Merci.
Thank you, Marie Pascal. And I'm just gonna share my screen again, just to say that the Ontario Association of Child and Youth Care are also our partners on this project. However, unfortunately, they were not able to attend today. So I would also like just to say that they are also our partners. So in total, we have 7 partners. White Ribbon is the 8th. And hopefully we can like do more and expand our program and, push for change. And finally, before I turn over the mic to Gayleen, I would like to acknowledge that the literature review that was conducted as part of this program was conducted and produced by Dr. Hassan and her team at UCAM. So thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. And also one of the research reports that was generated as part of this program was conducted by Cyphers. So we have look here, and I just wanted to um, just highlight this part as well. And thank you so much. And and the Cyphers report is launching very soon also. So you will be receiving it, or you will see it on Instagram if you follow us. Thank you so much. Over to you, Galen.
Thanks so much, Joanna. It's really great to see all of our project partners here, of course, and also to see this course come to fruition. It has been a long and very fruitful road, I think, for those who've worked on it. So really wonderful to have everybody here, and thank you to all the partners for being willing to join us and introduce yourselves. There's lots of questions I'm seeing in the Q&A about eligibility and the course generally. So please don't worry, we'll send a little FAQ out about the course after the event in an email so that everybody is really clear about that. The links are there. You can register your interest, whether you're part of the project partners who have access to the course or not. I've left some instructions, and our team have in the chat about how you can do that. If you're not eligible right now, we are seeking to broaden this out. So we're hoping to do that in the future, and we'll be in touch with everyone who's interested about how you can do that. So we'll send some FAQs out just to clarify everything that was said here in the introduction to the e-course, the launch of the e-course. So rest assured that will come to you in an email. Thanks, Joanna, for leading that for us. We're going to move on now to the next section of our event. This is the last section. This will be led by my colleague Zoe James. Zoe's the Senior Program Manager with White Ribbon. She's going to walk us through our Debunking the Manosphere project, which seeks to provide resources and tools, particularly to educators in Ontario, as they increasingly encounter harmful gender ideologies in their classrooms, perpetuated by the mix of online communities known loosely as the Manosphere. Over to you, Zoe.
Thanks so much, Gayleen. Thanks for everyone who's attending today. It's great to see so many people joining us to talk about these important topics. So I'm just going to set up here. Great. So as Gayleen mentioned, I'm going to talk today about our project titled Debunking the Manosphere that has taken place this year. And we are at the point as well of sharing our resources from this project. And I'm really excited to share all of that with you today. So this is a project that was focused on supporting educators in learning about the manosphere and having these types of conversations in classrooms. So before I jump into it, just want to also acknowledge the funding provided by the Government of Ontario for us to complete this project. And we are continuously grateful for their support throughout these anti-hate projects and with the Debunking the Manosphere project as well. So just a big thank you for making this work possible as we continue to push forward and do this important work. So just a little bit of an overview and of the objectives of this project. So we're aiming to educate Ontario elementary and secondary school educators on the online trends and tactics that promote misogyny, hate, and their impact on young boys and men. To help educators challenge and debunk the myths that are being spread online and that come from the Manosphere, and offer them resources and tools to be able to use in their classrooms, in their conversations, to support these ongoing conversations. And then to develop innovative resources for educators to prevent gender-based hate and discrimination and effectively intervene when it occurs. So we've heard a lot today about, incels and the Manosphere and these terms. And so just, to simplify maybe what has been shared and reiterate, the very complex nature of the Manosphere. It's just to understand that it's not just one kind of specific location or website, but that it's, found all across online spaces, and it can be, either very subtle, sometimes it's overt, but it can be very complicated to really kind of narrow down what exactly the Manosphere is. So it has these 5 primary hubs in which we see a lot of this ideology taking place and existing. So that's men's rights activists, a group called Men Going Their Own Way, things like pickup artists and that what we talked about earlier when it comes to romance or dating, former traditional living, as well as some aspects and some kind of places within gamer culture. Not all of gamer culture is, linked to the Manosphere, but it does have pockets as well. So there are quite a few common entry points. And again, a lot of these have been expressed by Dr. Cousineau and Dr. Hassan today. But just to, again, simplify and share, what we're seeing and what we're hearing when it comes to our research and our work. So these are the 5 kind of key entry points. So the first being fitness culture. And again, this is an area where those conversations can either be quite subtle and sometimes more overt, but what we're seeing is there's a lot of these beginning kind of pieces that maybe aren't as obvious for young boys that are linking to this misogynistic ideology, but they get caught up in those initial entry points and then find themselves, deeper and deeper into these engagements and these ideologies. The second being this kind of get rich content. So a lot of this focus on alpha male content that promotes the idea of like wealth and expensive cars are necessary for social success. And that's furthered by advice, lifestyle, and self-improvement content, especially that around confidence, assertiveness, or self-mastery. And then those that also criticize modern relationships, feminism, or social norms. Number 4 would be dating advice. So again, those kind of pickup forums or channels that offer advice on how to attract specifically women. Sometimes even well-intentioned dating content can produce misogynistic ideas. And that leads into the 5th point, which is this algorithm that deepens this engagement. So it's not always that young boys and men are looking for this content. Sometimes they come across, something again that they're not identifying as harmful. But once you click like, once you subscribe, once you watch a video, the algorithm picks that up and puts more and more of that content in front of you, which can lead down that road into deeper engagement into these harmful ideologies as well. So there's a lot of myths and ideas and ideologies that come from the Manosphere. We've, for this project, have narrowed it into 5 of these kind of key points that we're really focusing on to help educators again have these conversations and debunk these myths. So myths like girls only like the most popular boys, that you have to act tough to be respected, that girls can't be trusted. This myth that showing emotion makes you weak or unattractive, which we hear in a lot of these, conversations when we're talking with young men and boys about masculinity. And then this idea that boys are always treated unfairly, and specifically in the education system, that girls receive special treatment or are favored by educators, which makes all of these conversations can be really complex and challenging to have when a lot of these myths can very much resonate true for young men and boys, and that can lead them to engage with this content further if it feels like someone is hearing the concerns that they might have a small inkling of at first, but that can grow with when it's in front of them more and more. So for the next portion, I'm going to introduce our friend and partner, Jessica Rumbold, who has partnered with White Ribbon to do some research with youth when it comes to understanding the manosphere and what we've seen and what youth are seeing in our community. So Jessica is an award-winning researcher, educator, and curriculum developer whose work bridges academic scholarship and community-grounded activism. Her background in criminology and Indigenous education informs her unique ability to design and facilitate nuanced content that explores systemic inequality and social justice through culturally rooted pedagogies. And Jessica has led national and regional initiatives focused on gender-based violence, Indigenous rights, and equity in education. So thanks, Jessica, for joining us today. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what you've learned in this work as well.
Thank you so much, Zoe. And just for the slides, I'll just say the word slide if when to change it, if that's okay. So we can go on to the next sheet about the context and background research. So the research that we did, the purpose was to better understand how youth perceive masculinity and the online influences shaping these ideas. So I know we heard a lot about these topics today, and it's so wonderful that so many people are here today to gather and discuss and reflect on some of these key findings. The participants that were involved in this study included students, specifically between the ages of 12 to 18 from all across the province. And the methods of engagement included anonymous surveys. And we did this so that youth felt comfortable in sharing their feedback and had an option to take some time to reflect and then share that feedback. And these surveys were to explore definitions of masculinity, online exposure, and school experiences. Slide. Thank you. So why does this matter? We know from the speakers earlier today that this is such a relevant and important topic to discuss and explore. We know that youth are encountering harmful gender narratives more than ever and earlier than ever, so at an earlier age, often before they fully develop critical thinking skills. And social media, gaming platforms, and online influencers can shape how young people see themselves and others. The Manosphere, which is an online network of creators and communities that promote rigid or harmful ideas about masculinity, has become especially influential. It can distort what it means to be a real man, often framing strength, dominance, or control as measures of worthwhile, discouraging vulnerability, respect, or empathy. This is where educators play a critical role. You are on the front lines as an educator, shaping inclusive, empathetic, and informed students. Supporting digital literacy, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence helps youth question harmful online messages and help them inform healthier understandings of gender and identity. Next slide. So across our conversations and the research that was done, there were several key themes that were consistently emerged. They were the themes of caring and responsibility. And this included things like masculinity as a way of looking out for others and showing up for them. There was a theme of hard work and empathy. And this included strength shown through perseverance and understanding. There was discussions of respect and equity, treating others with fairness and dignity. And importantly, masculinity was not only defined by dominance or control, but also that element of connection and care. And I wanted to highlight that to know that there was mention by youth when they were defining masculinity through those common themes. And this tells us that many young people already hold inclusive and emotionally intelligent understandings of masculinity, and that educators, mentors, and programs can help reinforce healthier perspectives before the harmful ones can take root. Next slide. When looking at the online influence specifically, you'll see here that there's a quote, and this is directly from a youth survey participant, that TikTok and YouTube are where I see the most about alpha males and real men. It's everywhere. That line, "it's everywhere," captures the saturation of this content. Platforms like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Discord are not only just sources of entertainment, but they are now sources and major sources for identity formation. On these platforms, the algorithms often promote extreme or sensational content because it gets engagement. That means young people, especially boys, are frequently exposed to influencers and creators promoting rigid or harmful ideas of what it means to be a so-called real man. The danger is that many of these messages equate masculinity with dominance, control, or emotional suppression, which can reinforce gender stereotypes or even misogynistic worldviews. But this also shows an opportunity. Since youth are already learning about gender online, educators, mentors, and community programs can help them build digital literacy. And this is able to support the questioning of where messages come from, how to understand bias, and seek healthier role models and communities online. On this, you will see some of the reactions to some of the questions in the surveys. The first quote states, "It didn't make sense compared to what I learned at home." Some of the things that they see show that some youth experience real conflict between the values they're taught at home or school and what they see online. It leaves them questioning which version of masculinity to believe. Others describe discomfort, saying things like, "It's like women aren't human in their eyes." This reflects how dehumanizing or misogynistic messages make youth uneasy, even if they can't always articulate why. They recognize the harm, but may lack the tools to push back. The quote, "Boys who cry are weak," captures one of the strongest stressors, the idea that men and boys shouldn't show vulnerability. Many youth said they feel pressure to appear tough, emotionless, or alpha, even when it doesn't feel authentic. When asked what pressures they experience the most, the students who engaged in the surveys talked about the needing to appear strong or emotionless, wanting to look attractive or alpha, feeling the need for money, power, and success, and fearing judgment or ridicule for showing any type of emotion. So considering critical and hopeful thinking, many youth told us that when boys turn to harmful or hypermasculine content, it's often not out of hatred, it's out of insecurity or loneliness. They're looking for belonging, guidance, or a sense of identity. Unfortunately, online spaces that promise confidence and control can also push toxic messages about gender and power. The encouraging part is that students want adults to talk about this. They notice when educators and mentors avoid the topic out of discomfort or fear of saying the wrong thing. Youth told us clearly that silence does not help. What they're asking for is honest, caring conversation, people who will name the problem and guide them through it. So while some of the content influencing youth can be harmful, again, this finding reminds us that education and open dialogue can make a real difference. When adults step in with curiosity instead of judgment, we can create the space for youth to think critically and hopefully about what healthy masculinity can look like. When considering what teachers want, what youth want from teachers, first they share that they want safe discussions. They would like to talk about gender, empathy, respect, but in spaces where they won't be judged or shut down. They value when teachers facilitate open, non-punitive conversations where curiosity and questions are welcome. They're also asking for guidance, not punishment. When students make harmful or hurtful comments or repeat something they've heard online, they want adults to help them understand why it is harmful and how to do better rather than simply being disciplined. Youth also respond strongly to videos and stories, things that make them reflect and feel emotionally connected. And finally, they're asking for adult role models who share or who show care, fairness, and consistency. When teachers model empathy, calm dialogue, and accountability, youth see those as examples of strength, and that helps reshape their understanding of what masculinity and leadership can look like. In terms of what works in the classroom, these are some examples that came through the surveys, and it's essential to normalize conversations about gender and respect. These topics should not only come up after a problem occurs. When teachers bring them up regularly in a proactive manner in health class, media literacy, or even casual discussion, it can help students see that empathy, inclusion, and fairness are everyday expectations and not special topics. So these are just some examples. There are additional classroom engagement strategies that might be supportive or might help. This slide offers a few hands-on examples that teachers can use to bring these discussions into the classroom. Activities that are simple, adaptable, and focused on emotional awareness, empathy, and critical thinking. None of these activities require specialized training or long lessons. They're short, interactive, and centered on empathy and awareness, exactly the kinds of learning experiences that help students think critically and feel supported. These are some examples of conversation prompts that came through the surveys as well. When introducing prompts like these, it's important to set a tone of respect and curiosity. Remind students that there are no wrong answers. We're just exploring ideas together. You can use these questions in class discussions, small group work, or journaling activities. Ultimately, these prompts aren't just about having one right definition of masculinity or strength. They're about helping youth find the confidence and build the confidence and language to define these ideas for themselves in ways that feel healthy, respectful, and inclusive. Through the engagement in the surveys, a call to action came out. By fostering care, critical thinking, and inclusion in daily classroom life, educators have an incredible opportunity to make long-term change. We don't have to be an expert on gender to make a difference. Simply modeling respect, as mentioned, can go a long way. We must challenge harmful stereotypes by naming them gently when they show up. So when they show up in jokes, media, or classroom interactions. Promote empathy and equity by encouraging students to listen to one another's perspective and value care as a strength. Empower youth to redefine masculinity positively, to see kindness, emotional honesty, and fairness as forms of strength and leadership. And if we start these conversations early, we can help build a generation of students who are not only digitally literate, but emotionally aware and socially responsible. That's the real call to action, to shape learning environments where every student can feel safe, valued, and free to grow to their full potential selves. And lastly, here are some further reflections from the engagement. The continuing or the connection of practice. So how do gender norms or masculine behaviors show up in your classroom dynamics? What moments have you noticed where students challenge or reinforce stereotypes? How do you currently respond when gendered or harmful comments arise? And I encourage you to maybe even screenshot this or take this from the recording and engage in these conversations as a team or when you get together with your peers. What makes conversations feel challenging in your role? What training do you have? What training is available? How can you build a classroom where curiosity feels safe and respectful? And lastly, in terms of further reflections, how can we collaborate beyond the classroom? So, for example, meeting here this evening is a great way to engage in those conversations and build on that understanding outside of the classroom. How might you involve parents and caregivers in these conversations? What community partners or organizations could help reinforce these messages outside of the school? What small change could you make tomorrow or today to start shifting that conversation? And how can we ensure discussions are inclusive of trans, non-binary, and gender diverse students and individuals? Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing that with us. I think it was so insightful and so, like you said, hopeful to see those survey answers come in and how much youth shared and you know, the appetite for learning and for having these conversations in their classrooms. You know, that we know that that's out there because I think that's so important. Often when I, you know, do workshops with educators, we hear a lot about how hard it is and how complex it is to address these in these topics in the classroom. So, but it's nice to hear that, you know, youth want to have these conversations, and so that's, you know, we can ground ourselves in that as well to do this work. So, moving forward, I'd like to share some of the resources that we are launching today as well from this project to share with educators to use in their classrooms. We had a short video to share with you, but I am hearing now that our sound will not work in our current situation, unfortunately. So we will share this out along with the other resources that are coming following the event. And we will make sure that people get a chance to watch our new video. So we are launching this today as part of a 3-piece series that will launch throughout the rest of the month as well. Again, to use for educators for their own learning, but also to use in the classroom to help start some of these conversations. We heard from the surveys from youth that videos are a good tool for them to have these conversations and to make those connections as well. So I'm going to keep us moving forward. So here's just a little preview of some of the resources that are launching. And again, we will put the link in the chat for everyone to be able to access these on the White Ribbon Ally Hub. Again, these are geared for educators in Ontario. So just some of the pieces that are coming out of this project include posters and infographics, fact sheets, lesson plans, classroom activities, gamification tools as well. So there's a whole lot of different resources that are a part of this project and launching today. So we encourage you to come to our White Ribbon Ally Hub and to again register for the course and take a look at all of these resources and try them out in your classes. Provide us with feedback of how they work, so that we can continue to build on these and adapt them and make sure they are relevant for what's happening in the classrooms. And then I also wanted to take a minute to highlight our resources that launched from our anti-hate project last year as well, that are focused on a lot of the same topics around these online ideologies, these gender-based hate ideologies that are happening online as well. So last year, we also launched 3 videos. They are also available on our Ally Hub within the same course titled Debunking the Manosphere. All resources are available in English and in French, and more French resources will be coming in the short term as well for our debunking project. So again, these are great for using in classrooms to start those conversations. And also provided is all of the curriculum connections for the discussions, for the resources, so that there's clear connection to the curriculum to be able to use them in your classrooms. So again, just to reiterate how to access them. So these are available on the White Ribbon Ally Hub. So the links will be shared. You can use your email to make an account and to gain access to a lot of these different resources and materials. So yeah, that wraps up the Debunking the Manosphere project. Thank you all as we continue this, and I'll throw it back to Galen to finish us off.
Thanks so much, Zoe, and thanks, Jess, as well, and all of the previous speakers. I feel like for me, the sort of core message is so much that the conversation is so important, that making sure we're not demonizing boys and young men is so important, and really creating spaces and having tools and resources to have these conversations in spaces where boys and young men spend a lot of time is so important. Educators, parents, mental health workers, all of you being so important to all of that. So that was the key messaging for me. We're so grateful for the funding received from both Public Safety Canada and the province of Ontario for these projects. To that end, please, we would really appreciate if you would let us know so that we can let them know what you thought of the resources and presentation today. Our team is going to post the survey link in the chat. It's there for you. Please take 2 minutes to fill that out for us. It's so important for us to be able to measure our effectiveness as we launch events of this type and to adapt in the future to your feedback. So it really only takes a few minutes, and we really hope you'll take a few minutes to do that for us. We'll also paste again in the chat the resources Zoe mentioned. We've pasted some of them for you already to our Ally Hub site. So you can just create an account. It takes 2 seconds and you'll see the resources that are relevant to you. The Debunking the Manosphere resources are open to educators in Ontario, and the Incel Radicalization Prevention course is open to members from our 7 partners, as we've discussed. You can register your interest anyway, so please do that, and we can broaden it out as and when we're able. I think there's maybe a bit of an issue with those links there, but maybe someone can fix that. There you go. Someone's on it. We've mentioned we'll follow up with an email after this, so certainly we'll do that. We do have a few minutes to answer a few questions. I'm hoping our panelists can turn their cameras on for us, those who are still here. We'd love to be able to spotlight you if we ask you a question here. I think I'll open up with Umberto if he's still with us here, and hoping that he can turn his camera on as well. Wonderful. Thank you, Umberto. This is some of which you answered some of this in the Q&A, but there's 2 sort of related questions here for those that didn't read that. One is about whether we've ever worked with Hockey Canada or amateur hockey to address misogyny and violence within sports or within Hockey Canada in general. The other is about providing seminars similar to this to teachers in person, and whether folks can book White Ribbon to speak at their school. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind just speaking to those points for us. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Galen, for that, and thank you for the questions. And yes, so sports and sports organizations and institutions can be part of the solution, need to be part of the solution. So yes, White Ribbon has a long-standing history of working with sports. Even more recently, our connection with the Toronto Maple Leafs and our Men of Quality campaign, which I invite all of you to check out at menofquality.ca. We are working with Hockey Canada. We have been working with the organization now for 2 years. We are providing professional training to their athletes, youth and adult athletes, to the para athletes group as well, women hockey players. So we are doing that work. We are working directly with Hockey Canada to support the organization and engaging in culture change. And our experience has been very, very positive. Hockey Canada has been deeply committed to turn things around, and we are seeing and continue to see positive change there. We have a partnership with United Steelworkers and the Canadian Football Players Association, and we're doing work together to train spokespeople from the sports world, so athletes and union leaders, to go into the workplace and do their part in preventing gender-based violence. So through engaging men and boys as allies in different settings, including sports. So lots still to be done, and the problems continue. We are very aware of that, and White Ribbon is here, and we always jump into action. We get in touch. We say we have the solution. We know how to do this work, and we want to be good partners with these organizations because we believe that it is possible, and we've seen that change is possible. So we want to do that work collaboratively together, using a strength-based approach, meeting organizations and athletes where they are and building on their strengths, their hopes and commitments to be part of change, and giving them the tools, the information, and the motivation to do that proactively. In terms of providing trainings and information sessions, sharing research like this with groups of educators, absolutely reach out to us. Visit our website at whiteribbons.ca. There is a section there on requesting trainings, presentations, and workshops. So yes, we will come. We will come to your school, to your school board, to your organization, to your union, to your local And we'll do everything from a presentation to a workshop to a day-long training. We will bring our resources and we'll showcase them, and we'll be there to work alongside you to support you as you take on this work. We believe that change is possible. We will leave no stone unturned in terms of opportunities to create this change, because we're darn passionate and committed that we want to see change, because so many of us have been part of this work for so long, have experienced these issues ourselves, and our families, our kids. So we are in this together, and we want to do this work together with all of you. And I'm so thankful to everybody that contributed today, to all our amazing partners and funders, and to all of you from around the world for being here today with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Humberto, for highlighting some of that. That's great. I have a few questions for Dr. Hassan. Dr. Hassan, if you're still with us, and oh, wonderful, great, thank you. There's a few related questions, so I'll try to chunk them together for you. There's one about, as a woman, how can I engage in meaningful conversations about healthy masculinity with male coworkers or male students who might not want to hear it? And someone else is asking a related question about, do we know if it matters whether the educator or person who's engaging in the conversation to create a healthier space, do we know if it matters whether they're male or female in that engagement, particularly for young boys? So those questions kind of go together well, I think. So if you could answer that for us, your insights there would be really appreciated.
Yes, surely. I mean, the first thing I would say is that we cannot force a conversation. So if we feel that somebody's absolutely not ready for that conversation, then I think it's not the time. Maybe it's not the space also. Sometimes it may appear to us that a conversation is not possible, but it's because the timing or the space where this conversation is happening does not feel safe for both persons. So that's the first. The second, I think that if we come from a confrontational position, even in research on violent extremism, like there's enough evidence to tell us that confrontation actually gives more fuel and plunges the person even further in their extremism. So we need to come from a space of questioning, from a space of I would say wanting to explore, wanting to understand more rather than confronting. That might be difficult for us from our positionality, and that's why reflexivity is very important. So it is about us hearing what the other person has to say and not focusing on the ideology, but focusing on the emotional human experience. So what is of interest for you, for example, let's say, as you define yourself as a women colleague, is not so much to understand why they're thinking like that and where do they have these ideas from, but it's rather to go back as, how are they experiencing the world? How are they living? Where their vulnerabilities are, to connect them back to the emotional space. And it is in the emotional space that we can find some potential openness, because then we can relate to the human experience. In terms of pairing, I would say in our practitioner teams, and we would pair, but only for our most entrenched persons, because to be able to establish that first kind of trust relationship, but also to help, let's say, take care of the mental health of ourselves as practitioners. And, when we are practitioners who have very intersecting identities, it's very hard to hear some of the very hateful language. So we need to take care of ourselves. However, what we have noticed is that only in those extremes that a first pairing could be helpful. But in most situations, when there is listening, when there is empathy, and when there is sharing, it really doesn't matter that much when that space is being opened. The persons will feel able to engage in the relationship without kind of focusing on the fact that there is that specific gender or that specific identity marker that is at place. So it's not an
Wonderful.
easy answer, you know, it's like it really depends on the situation, but
Yes, I think that's another key message I've taken out of today is that it's all nuanced. None of it is simple. There's no black and white. So I really appreciate you speaking to that and how important the dialogue is in and of itself. So thank you so much for speaking to that for us. I have a question I'm going to throw to Luke. This will be the last question we'll take. Luke, I'm hoping you feel like you can answer this one. I think you touched on some of it in your talk, so maybe it's a question for Dr. Hassan, but I think it's for you. So somebody asking, is male supremacy always part of this online misogyny within the manosphere? Or is the main essence anti-feminism or being anti-feminist and not necessarily male superiority? I feel like it's a little bit of a distinction, but I'm not sure how much of a difference, but anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try not to go too deep into the academic nuance of that, but I actually just like right before you asked me, clicked enter on a text response to this too. So the person that asked this
Oh,
question can
okay.
also read that. Everybody can read that. Um, I will say, like, thank you everybody for all of the really interesting questions. I've been trying to kind of answer some in the background. The answer to this question is that if we understand feminism as a move towards equity, which it is at its core, then anti-feminist movements must inherently be male supremacist. This is the core of the issue. If we believe that feminism is a move to equity, and I mean, you can argue that there's radicalism within feminism, and that's a very complicated issue that we can discuss over our women's studies degrees if you'd like. But at the core, it's a move towards equity. And so if a movement or a group or an individual is anti-feminist, that is almost always reflected as sort of a loss to men. Right? It's some way feminism is some way detrimentally affecting a man or men more generally. If that's the basis of the argument, which it almost exclusively is, then that is at its core male supremacism in action, right? That's the idea that if women have more power, I'll have less power, and that's bad. And along with being fallacious, like along with being just plain wrong, it's like a cloak, right? Oh, I think feminism has gone too far. Well, really, that's just saying like I want to maintain this power and privilege that I continue to have. And so I actually don't think that we can really separate those two things.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, as I was speaking the question, I was having the same thought that it's hard to separate those things in a bit of a sort of zero-sum game, right? When you're thinking about feminism and equity as this zero-sum game. If you have more, I have less, and that inherently means you're taking something from me. So thanks so much, Luke. Thanks to everybody who spoke during the questions. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm going to turn it back to Kat Krieger, our elder who opened our event. I'm hoping Kat is still with us and that he's going to show up as a spotlight any minute now, which Kat, I really appreciate that you opening and closing for us and in such a peaceful way. I think it's really grounding to have you do that for us at the beginning and closing the circle at the end. And we really appreciate you doing that with us. Certainly huge gratitude to you, to all of our speakers, to our translators. Amazing work. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch with you all. In the meantime, please follow us on our socials. Kat kindly mentioned that this work, it does not happen for free. Please feel free to make a donation to White Ribbon. The information is there for you in the chat. You can sign up to our newsletter, follow us on all of our socials. We love to hear from you, and our team loves to hear from you, so please don't be a stranger. And really, thanks so much for being here today and spending your evening and late afternoon with us. And we'll follow up with an email about anything we didn't get to today and with lots of links and resources. So thanks so much to all, and we'll end it there.